I'm Lois.
And I'm Stacey, and this is Whose Girl Are You? What are we talking about today?
Today we're going to attempt to talk about mean girls.
Mean girls.
What does that phrase bring up in you when you hear it?
I mean, we've all known some mean girls.
Ooh. Some of us have been mean girls.
Yeah.
In hindsight.
Were you a mean girl?
Sometimes, yeah, absolutely.
But, like, would people have said, like, that about you in high school?
No, they wouldn't.
I feel like that's the main fighting ground for mean girls. Because they haven't been, if they're a mean girl there, they haven't been put in their place yet.
Yeah. When does it start?
I think it gets pretty bad, like, just right around puberty.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, middle school.
I would say, like, my first real run-in with what I perceived to be, like, really mean was 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 11 or 12. 11, probably.
Yeah.
I was young for my grade.
My thought is that by high school, it's actually even settled down a little bit. But that middle school, 5, 6, 7, 8, is when it's really bad.
Oh, it's like, have you ever watched the show Survivor?
Yes.
It's kind of like Survivor, right? Like, you could get voted off the island at any moment for just looking at someone sideways. And one person can, like, get a whole group of people to turn against you.
Yes.
And kick you out.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And
yeah.
That's what happened to me in 6th grade. The group of friends that I had at the time came up to me at the schoolyard, and there was one spokesperson who was the meanest of the group.
Yeah.
Maybe she wasn't. Looking back, maybe she was just the boldest.
Yeah.
And the one willing to speak and be the talking head.
Or she got pushed into that position, maybe.
Yeah, maybe she was a natural leader, so she kind of stepped up to it.
Yeah.
But it was told to me that they were not allowed to hang out with me anymore because I didn't go to their parents said they weren't allowed to be my friend anymore because I went to the wrong church.
Mm.
Just in one day, my entire friend group was wiped out.
Oh my word, that's horrible.
Yeah.
And that is not uncommon. It's something that we have dealt with here with my children, with my daughters, because it's still the same. If you don't go to their church at puberty, it's over. You're not allowed to be friends.
They're allowed to be friends with us up until a certain point, and I'm not sure why there's like a cutoff. Is it an unspoken rule? I don't know. Because as little kids, they were allowed to come to all my birthday parties and hang out with me, and I went to their houses, and then all of a sudden one day their parents, and I really do believe their parents told them, you're not allowed to hang out with that girl anymore. Like, you need to just tell her. Yeah. And maybe that was the nice thing to do, is just to tell me instead of ignoring me or whatever. Like, I knew exactly why. Yeah. I didn't have to sit around and guess why it is that they wouldn't talk to me anymore. Because I think that's actually worse.
Yeah. Just ghosting?
The shunning. Like, the ghosting, the shunning, the just turning your back and ignoring. Yeah. That's more hurtful because then your mind ruminates on all of these. What did I do? What is wrong with me? It brings it into you internally instead of saying, oh, it's this external problem. Right. And there's a big difference there. Yeah. I wish I could say that was my one and only run-in with that. Yeah. About being kicked out of a club or group or whatever, but it wasn't. Yeah.
I've had really, really heartbreaking conversations with young girls in that middle school bracket who it hasn't gone away. That has not changed since we were in middle school.
That's crazy.
And it's horrible.
I don't see it anymore because, well, that's not true. It's not that I don't see it anymore. I guess I don't have to deal with it anymore because I don't have young girls anymore, and my boys aren't even in the public school system. Right. And I don't know. Maybe it's still out there around where I live, but I don't necessarily see it. But I probably just don't put myself in those situations either.
Right. I think there are places other than public school where it happens, though. I think it happens in families. If you have large family functions, it can happen, especially if you spend a lot of time together. Yeah.
Actually, I think it's funny we're talking mean girls, but puberty age boys are pretty mean too.
Oh boy. Yeah.
They're very tribal. They're very us and you. Yeah. I think the big difference between the boys and the girls is that the boys tend to have bigger groups that they'll hang out with because they are more tribal. They want to know their place in a group, where girls are more one-on-ones.
Yeah.
So when you have someone be mean to you, it's a lot more personal because girls tend to reveal a lot more about themselves to one another when they're on those one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And so the attacks can just cut so deep, right? Because you've already exposed your heart
soft
to them.
Underbelly. Oof.
Where guys, I think, are better at protecting that, but also they're very, I've seen a lot of meanness in the boys. Just as much, if not more, to be honest with you.
And boys are more aggressive, probably.
More aggressive. And to me, it seems like...
Although, girls can get a good fist fight going on, too.
I'm not proud of this, but I have been known to punch a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she tried to tell me, she was a new girl that moved into the area and tried to tell me that my best friend was now her best friend. Ooh. And when you're young, you can only have one best friend.
Right.
Because you haven't learned otherwise.
Right.
So, yeah, she got in my face about it, so I punched her out. I punched her and kind of shoved her at the same time, and she went down the sledding hill, because we had a sledding hill on the playground. Mm-hmm. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Jill was still my best friend for many, many more years to come. We've lost touch now, but I have really fond memories of her.
Was she right, though? Can you have more than one best? I mean, the meaning of best means something. Words mean things, Stacey.
Yeah, words do mean things. Well, so I think what I've learned is that you don't necessarily... I be careful with my language now. So I don't necessarily say, oh, Lois is my best friend.
Right. No, exactly. I don't either.
Because I've learned that there's so much variety in my friend group, in the different friends I have, and the ones I've moved a lot in my life, and I've developed a lot of different friendships. And so I like to say, there's certain ones that I'll say, she's a very good friend of mine.
Yes.
If I feel like I know them personally, I've spent time at their house, they've spent time at my house.
Right.
I've known her for an extended period of time. Now they're a very good friend of mine. If you haven't spent time in my house, you're an acquaintance to me. Yeah.
So is there a difference between very good friend, and acquaintance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you hear me say, so-and-so is a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
They would be like the equivalent of a middle school best friend.
Yeah.
They would be in that category.
Yeah.
And then if they're my friend, I'm very friendly with them. I love running into them. Now, they haven't spent time in my house. I haven't spent time in theirs. We haven't taken trips together. None of that. But I would consider them a friend, though, because they're someone that I feel very connected to in some way and very open to talk with. That they seem to be a caring person. They care for me. I care for them. Yeah. But it may be more just I see them in church and then I run into them around the community. But it's like every time I run into them, I light up. I'm so glad I ran into them. If we have time, we'll be stuck talking for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's great.
And those would be friends. And then the acquaintances I don't really have much to say to them.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm friendly, but
yes,
I don't light up when I see them. They're just someone I know their name, and I know maybe tiny bits of facts about them. I don't know their heart.
So this might be somebody that your kids went to school with, or you're involved in a club or something. Your kids are together, something like that.
Well, even a lot of people at church, to be honest, because you can't be a friend with 500 people.
No, exactly.
We don't have the capacity to do it.
Right.
I wish if I had a superpower, that would be my superpower.
Yes. I totally get that.
I would be able to intimately know every single person in my church and be able to care for them well. That would be my superpower.
Yeah.
I feel so, but then, would I need God? So there's that.
Right.
I have to trust that God has us all in this church to care for one another, use our gifts accordingly. And in that, not everyone can be friends with everyone. And honestly, we're not meant to be.
Right.
We all have to just do what the Lord calls us to do, our part.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to bring that church friendship up or church relationship up too. And so I'm glad you did, because you can have, we say church family.
Yeah. And they are. I do consider them all family. Like all the church members, I do consider them family, but there's always those distant uncles. You don't really know them. You know who they are and kind of where they fit in. They're from your mom's side or whatever, but you don't know them.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that it is family, but within friendship, we have different quote unquote levels. I don't know. Is there, Jesus had.
He did too.
The inner circle.
He had 2 closest friends.
3. But
3.
Yeah.
Who?
Peter, James, and John.
Oh.
Peter, James, and John went with him. They saw the transfiguration. They went in the garden.
Why was I thinking there was only 2?
I don't know.
I thought it was Peter and John. I don't know.
Peter and John, yeah.
Or James.
And there may be some where it's just Peter and John.
Right.
I've often heard 3 as the inner circle. And I think even of those 3, Peter was the guy.
Honestly, I would actually pose this. I honestly think, can you really maintain more than 3 really close friendships outside of your husband and kids?
I don't think so.
It takes, to really be a good friend.
Yeah.
It takes so much time and energy.
So Peter and John, though, to go back to that for a second, I think just like we were talking about, friendships are different, right?
Yeah.
Peter's the impetuous, jump out of the boat, stick his mouth out there immediately, spokesperson. He'd be the one standing at the front of that mean girl pack saying, Stacey, you can't be our friend anymore. Sorry. Or maybe not tack on the sorry. But John is the one who's reclining on Jesus's chest at the Last Supper.
He's just kicked back.
And close. So close.
Yeah.
So different friendships, right?
Sure. Of course. Thank God. I mean, even with me, nobody could handle more than one of me.
Oh, no kidding. I get that.
You're supposed to agree with that. Just teasing. But yeah, I mean.
I consider you a very good friend, Stacey.
Yeah.
I won't say best because, words mean things.
Yeah, words do mean things. I don't call anyone, well, there is one person that I refer to. It's kind of jokingly, but it's kind of serious. Like, it's kind of like, bestie? I kind of really mean it. Yeah, I say bestie. Like, right now I do have one. And I think it's important to always, at any point in your life, like, if you can have that bestie, that, like, that one person that you can go to, like, you're pretty blessed.
Yes.
You're confidant, outside of your husband and your kids. It's really a awesome thing. Mine actually just went out of town yesterday for 2 weeks, and she was even gonna stop and say bye. Like, I'm like, it's 2 weeks, which, I purposely planned my trip in the middle of her trip so it wouldn't feel like she was gone so long. Like, it's really, but then here's my caveat to that. Because my sister-in-law, Lois, not you, Lois, but a different Lois.
Yep.
Was so close to me, and I relied on her so heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I was so close to her, spent so much time with her, and talked to her so often that it became unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
There is kind of a point where now your bestie has just gone over to, like, you're my personal Jesus, and now I'm going to go to you with everything. And I'm not keeping my first things first anymore. And I had to learn that lesson the real hard way because she got taken from this earth, I think, prematurely.
Yeah.
So it was hard to get left with myself.
Those pieces. Yeah. The pieces of your heart.
I didn't see it when it was happening, right?
Yeah.
And I actually feel really bad about it now when I think about it, if I let myself think about it, because it was unfair for me to even do that to her.
Yeah.
Really. So I learned not to have a personal Jesus. So even though I have a bestie and I love her dearly and her whole family, I am very careful not to put all my burdens on her, right?
Yeah.
Like, only Jesus can carry those. So I go to him first. So this is all I've learned. Not that you can't share that stuff with your closest friends,
right?
But go to the Lord first, right? So like, unload all your burdens there, and hopefully you can go to your friends with less burdens because you've already laid them at the foot of the cross, and you can go to them. Hopefully you can go to your friends with the lessons you've learned from it, the blessings from it, the joys from it, and not always be burdening them with it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time to have a good friend too, right? Like when my mom died.
Yes.
When you need to, yes. Yeah. Like, I just needed to cry and tell somebody and talk for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I just say that with, like, yeah, it's great to have a really close friend in your life at any time, but be really careful about how you're treating that friend, because putting all your burdens and calling them about everything, like I honestly say, I just told my husband this last night and I don't remember why it had come up, but I said, you just can't put all your eggs in one basket. If all of my hope and dreams and everything is in you, that's dangerous. And if it's all in my kids, like that's dangerous. If it's all in my friends, that's dangerous, because at any given point in time, these people can be just like a blink of an eye snatched out of my life. And I know this from experience. I've had it happen to me multiple times. And so the blessing from it has just driven me to keep Christ first, to keep my relationship with God first, to know that he is the rock I can build my life on. And all of the people I have, you and my family, my other friends, my relatives, all of that, those are just blessings on top of the main thing, right? Like if you seek the first things first, all these other things will be added to you. You'll have all these beautiful relationships, hopefully. And I do, and I feel very blessed by it. But none of them are my primary thing. And I don't say that to be mean, right?
Right.
But even my husband, even my kids, you won't hear me say they're my life, because they're not.
No, exactly. Because Jesus is your life.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly true. When you have a personal Jesus, that's a false God. It really is. That's what the scripture puts as an idol. It's what you spend all your time and energy and money and everything. You spend everything on that.
Well, it's like who you trust.
Yes. It's who you fear, love, and trust.
Yeah.
Fear in the sense of, I know that you don't fear your best friend, right? In that way, but you fear losing them. Yeah. That's a fear,
I mean, so I don't actually, to be honest, because
not anymore, but
not anymore. Like,
because you've been through it. Yeah.
Honestly.
No, I know.
I've talked to one of our other family members, one of my sister-in-laws at one point, and she said, I think our family's weird now. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, we've had so much death that the way we view it now is so different than how other people view it, that we sound like a bunch of weirdos when we talk about it. Cause like we make comments like, I don't know, we make comments like almost like we're taking death lightly. Almost like we just are expecting death.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is,
see you later if I make it back from the store.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm trying to think of,
is it that kind of?
No, like, okay, here's a comment. Like, we had a family reunion last summer, and we were sitting around having coffee, and one of my sister-in-laws says, look around. Chances are, with this family, that by the time we have the next family reunion in 10 years, half of us will be dead. And we all just laughed. Like, we weren't fazed by it. We kind of laughed and thought, there's some truth to this. Because at that table that was sitting around, it was all 40 and above. Right. And the longevity in that family just isn't there.
Yeah. And from the last 10-year ago reunion, there's a bunch missing.
Yeah, because actually I had a video that I had made when I was going through my home movie phase of my life from the reunion previously, from 10 years before. And so I had brought it with me to the reunion, and I had it playing on my laptop so that people could look at it. And sure enough, they're like, that guy's dead, that lady's dead, like she's gone, she just died, and we were like, this is crazy how many people were in this video that are no longer with us. But we weren't like crying about it either. We were looking at it with joy of like, they were all laughing and playing, and it was what it was. And so we're all just like, our days are numbered, and that's fine. And we're okay with it. And I don't know. We just talk about it like we deal with death differently because we've been through a lot of it.
The hope we have, though, in knowing that this is temporary, that gives peace.
Yeah.
I've done a lot the same journey through friendship. I had a best friend who also has passed away, and I got to know her as really young. I was 20, maybe. And we grew to be very, very close, but in the same way, we spent so much time together that it did become unhealthy. And it kind of naturally for us, it wasn't like that anymore when she passed away, which was easier on my heart. I wasn't left with broken pieces of my heart in my hand like you were. It had naturally evolved to a more, because our children grew up, our families grew up, our kids started getting married, we started having grandchildren. It naturally pulled back to a more normal friendship level.
Yeah.
I still called her and she still called me, but we didn't talk every day. We didn't talk all the time. And it was different when we were older, and it was good. It was very good. And I was absolutely still left holding pieces of my heart when she died.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question about Mean Girls is, do you think that Mean Girls can change?
Yes, I do.
You think they're a mean girl when they're young and then they can grow out of it?
I would hope so.
What causes them to?
To grow out of it?
Yeah.
Jesus. The love of Jesus, knowing that they're a sinner and Jesus loved them anyway.
So if they don't come to Christ, can they grow out of it?
I don't know.
Sometimes I think to myself when I encounter a mean girl in the wild that they just haven't had life smack them hard enough yet.
Well, that could be, it's a good learning experience too. And I think you're right that life smacking you in the face definitely grows you up and definitely can turn you. But I don't know. What gives a relationship in the wild any good that's in it? It still comes from God somehow.
Say that again, your internet.
In a relationship in the wild, any good that's in it still comes from God somehow, ultimately.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there is any trust there at all, the fact that there is any sharing of life together.
Well, all good things come down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadow, right?
Yeah.
The book of James. So yeah, every good and perfect thing does come from him, ultimately.
And so even in the wild.
That doesn't mean that someone's in Christ just because they do something good. It means, so this is kind of interesting. When the goodness of God is listed as one of the fruit of the Spirit, goodness as the Bible speaks of it is talking about morality, but morality not just for morality's sake, but morality for the benefit of another. Doing something good for the benefit of another, not for the benefit of self. Although you can gain a benefit, but that's just not your motivation. And when you're doing something good for someone else, for the other, you're displaying the characteristic of God.
I know.
Because that is one of God's characteristics, right? So like,
right.
You're displaying God to people by your goodness, which is the opposite of the meanness.
But that's what I'm saying. Even mean girls who grow up get slapped around a lot. And even if they don't come to Christ, I'm going to revise my answer. They can come to trust, to true friendship. Can they? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
It seems like they can.
Well, what's their motivation for being mean? That's really comes back down to it, right? What's their motivation for being mean? Are they doing it as a self-protective mechanism because of their extreme insecurity?
Yes.
Are they doing it because they come from a household where that's just taught as this is how you behave, this is normalized? Yeah. You know, why are they doing it? And I think that in itself, because I do think there are some people out there that are downright, they're not just mean, they are kind of evil.
Yeah.
There's a real, they're not walking in the light.
Yeah.
And they are they love to see people fail. They love to make people feel bad. And I don't know, I can't understand and I don't want to understand. Because in order to truly understand, you'd have to walk in those shoes. And I'm not about to walk in the shoes of someone like that. Because I don't want to know that badly. But there are a few that are like that. I suppose they're the exception. Typically, I think they're more putting on the front as a self-protective armor for an insecurity that they have, because I don't know if life has maybe proven to them that they can't trust people. Yeah. That they have been teased, that they have been whatever, and they somewhere in their subconscious say, I'm not going to allow that to happen to me again. So I'm going to strike first. Yes. So I'm going to be that person. I actually was really good friends with someone in high school that was known as the mean girl. The thing is she wasn't mean to me. Well, she was a little bit, but I can hold my own, right? Like if someone's mean to me, I can be mean back, like really fast. Like I have a very quick retort to it.
Yeah.
And in the 80s and 90s or whatever, the retorts were so simple, right?
Yeah.
The arsenal that we had when we were kids to combat teasing and bullying and whatever was pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
You said, you're so stupid. And you're like, no, you're stupid. Or it was, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Yeah.
And I remember, I said this stuff, yelled it in a snotty voice at girls on the playground. Like I used this.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? What was the other one that was like, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you like glue?
Yeah.
But I think there was more to it than that.
I'm rubber, you were glue.
I'm rubber, you're glue. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it turned into, in the 90s, it was like, yo mama.
Yeah.
So we always had these retorts. Did it mean that the words didn't hurt? No, of course they still hurt.
Yeah.
But you had to come back for it. And it was standardly taught to all of us how to respond.
How did we learn that? Because
I don't know.
Our parents certainly didn't teach us that. I think it's part of the old Adam. I'm sorry, old Eve were girls.
I don't know. It's the always trying to respond with, that didn't bother me anyway.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. It's just saying that.
We're protecting our heart.
So I'm learning some different, you can't respond like that in your 40s or people are going to think, wow, she needs therapy. I mean, they probably think that anyhow, but I've learned some stuff just from some books I've read about if someone comes at you and they're just being kind of nasty or snarky. Usually it's just like a sideways, underhanded type of way when you're an adult. It's not as overt as you are when you're a kid, how it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the phrases was to just just let the person talk until they're done talking, even if they're just spewing garbage out of their mouth. And then when they're done, just look them in the eye, pause for a second and say, are you okay?
Ooh.
So it takes a lot of self-restraint though, because you have to stay quiet and keep making eye contact as they say whatever it is that they're going to say.
Yeah. And not respond to that vitriol. Yeah.
And then also my biggest thing is not letting my face respond or my tone of voice respond.
Yeah.
So those are my two biggest things that I'm still trying to work on. And I'm on the later end of my 40s is the tone of voice and the facial expressions. They give me away every time. So I'm trying to get a control on those.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know when
self-control, right? Ooh. That fruit grows, but it's sometimes slower growing than some of the others.
Very much so. Some fruit, you plant the tree and it doesn't bear fruit for 3 years.
I know.
So,
I know.
There's some things I think that are the Holy Spirit reveals to be in my life that need to be worked on. And I'm reading about them and I'm praying and confessing about them. And I'm, trying to be hyper aware when I'm doing these things and, all of this. And I think sometimes it takes 3 years before I feel like I've made a little bit of progress in that area. Like the Holy Spirit's finally worked this up in me, to start to bear fruit. But a lot of it is slow going. And I just say, don't give up. If you're being convicted about some kind of thing in your life, because nothing gets me so riled up as when people are like, that's just who I am.
Yeah.
That's just my personality.
Yeah.
I've always been like this. It's like, that is such a cop out.
Yeah. You were darkness. Now you are light.
Yeah. And God calls us to keep being sanctified. Of course, I'm talking about people in the church.
So you brought this up before. And so I have to ask about it.
Does God do the work or do I?
No, you are sanctified. You already are sanctified.
But the process.
There is a process of Christian growth.
Yeah.
And I think you're using that term as sanctification. And I know that you have clarified before that you don't believe that, you're going to at some point become purely sanctified, perfectly sanctified on this earth.
Yeah.
But sanctified means set apart for holy use. And you already have been that.
So I looked it up. I have it in front of me right now. So yeah, you're right. The very first, it says noun, the action of making or declaring something holy. The sanctification of bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ is one of the things. the action or process of being freed from sin or purified. The process of sanctification takes deliberate action on our part. And then it says the action of causing something to be or seem morally right or acceptable, the sanctification of violence. I don't understand that. But I feel like it's one of these, I am sanctified, I'm being sanctified. Like the already not yet. That's, I think, how I view it. I feel like, yes, I'm set apart as holy because the Holy Spirit lives in me now and in this temple, right? But also I am sanctified, but I'm also becoming sanctified.
Yeah.
As he burns things out of me, takes things out of me, reveals things to me that he wants me to change and give up and hand over. And I continue this process until I'm done.
It'll never be done.
Right.
Until glory.
So I don't know. I think there's multiple different things.
That's why I just wanted to ask, because I was like, I know you don't believe in progressive sanctification. Oh, I can't even say it. Progressive sanctification with, quotation marks around it.
Or do I?
But yet, that's what I was going to say. Or do you?
Can I have already and not yet? Or does it have to be one or the other?
Well, already, definitely. As long as you know you have the already.
Yeah.
Then I'm good with the not yet.
Okay.
Because it is not something that God is working in you in order to make you acceptable to him.
So if you don't call it sanctification, the process of being like, yes, you're sanctified and set apart as holy, but now he is sanctifying you to be not less me, but like less sin. I don't know.
Yeah.
And more Christ-like.
Growth in grace, maybe?
I mean, what do you call it?
That's what I was going to say. Growing in grace. Growing in the knowledge of God. Growing in I
guess we could just say
Christ.
Growing.
Yeah. Growing in Christ. It's Christian growth. It's not measurable in inches.
I mean, it says all the time, continue to grow in the grace and peace of the Lord Jesus Christ. Continue to, lot of the epistles will say, continue to grow in the grace and peace. So I guess maybe I don't need to call it sanctification. I guess in my mind, I think that is still, yes, I'm set apart and holy, but it's still an easy way for me to wrap my brain around the constant push or pull in one direction or the other as well. And if I'm leaning into him, he's continues to sanctify me, continues to make different parts of my life holy that weren't holy. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe my wordage is not right in that, but.
Well, it becomes saint and sinner again too, though.
Yeah, but I'm both. I've already decided that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So maybe that's in that sense, it's the already not yet. It's the saint and sinner.
Yeah. I think as humans, we want to have so much black and white. Like, what is it? Is it this or is it that? And it's like, can't I have both?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't I have joy in the midst of my sorrow?
Yeah. I love that part of the Christian life.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Right.
Because we do so many times.
I think if it starts getting too black and white and people are trying to force you one way or the other, I mean, you might be in a cult.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be falling into just religious legalism at that point, right? Because it's a relationship. And I'm saying there is some very solid right and wrongs. I'm not trying to say that there isn't, but.
Yeah. It's not a religion. It's a relationship. It's a common term.
It's both.
I know, right?
It's both. I have a personal relationship, but.
That's where we come with the both and.
I am a very religious person too.
Right.
So I have both.
Yeah, I get that.
I've always fought against that. Someone trying to pigeonhole me into one thing. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
No. It's just against my nature. Just my own, what I was born with.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, can't I be a mom, but also still be cool?
Yeah.
Exactly. I could be both.
Can't I be a girl and still climb trees?
Yeah, exactly. I think I've always pushed the envelope that way, where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm a girl, but do I have to wear a dress? Is that what makes a girl? So, I'm constantly, I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I be opinionated but still submissive to my husband? Kinda.
I know. Kinda. I try to walk that line.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, I just think a lot of times when you find the both like that married together beautifully, you're walking in the middle of the line, right? You're not so far one way or so far the other way. And those are the ones so far one way or the other way are the ones that are wanting to push you to make a decision. Are you this or that? Are you a sinner or are you a
Yeah.
saved? You know,
Yeah.
are you a
Yeah.
girl or are you a boy? It's just like, no, I'm a
Yeah.
girl who acts like a boy. Like, get off my
Yeah.
back.
And in that sense, you can be a girl who acts like a boy and yet be,
A girl.
yes. Well, what I was going to say is the marriage of the two makes you a better girl than being without that. Adam, before Eve was taken from his rib, was a more complete human with the masculine and the feminine in one, like God is. You know, he calls himself Father, but he also says, like a mother hen, I'll gather you under my wings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more complete to have both of those traits.
I think on the spectrum of girls and boys, in girls, there's super, super feminine and super, super tomboy masculine, and then all the different variations in between all of that. And same thing with guys. There's super feminine guys, super duper masculine guys, and then a lot in the between. And I think that God purposely did that. I think that it showed because we're reflections of him. Yeah. And we're so multifaceted because he's God, right? Like, we can't even wrap our heads around everything that he is, but he like makes all these people with all these varied things to show how multifaceted he is and how masculine he can be and how feminine he can be. And we all have encompass all of that to some degree, but I don't know if I like agree with like it would be more because I'm like willing to, I don't know what I think about that, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's learning to be uniquely who you are. And I think that's what I've fought for my whole life is why can't people just let me be me? You know, why are they telling me like,
yeah, you have to wear ribbons and dresses.
Yeah. Or
in order to be you.
Yeah. Or you have to be this if you're a mom, or you have to be this because you're a woman, or like you need to be quiet and let the men talk, or you have to, I don't know. There's just all this stuff. And I feel like my whole life I've been like out of place. Not my whole life. This is why I like being at home. I can be completely me here. If I want to break out in a dance in the kitchen while I'm cooking and like be loud and talking on the phone. Yeah. No one's judging me here. Yeah. I don't know if they like it or don't like it, but they accept it. Yeah. And that's all I need. I don't need people to like me. I just need them to accept me. Or leave me alone. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. End of rant. So Mean Girls. I don't know if I was a mean girl. I don't think I was a mean girl because I fought for the underdog. Okay. If I ever saw anyone be picked on, I went to their defense. Like I could not stand. I could not stand that. Partly probably because my sister was handicapped and she went to all of back then they call it special ed. I don't think they call it that anymore. But she had special ed classes. And so she got picked on a lot. And she usually didn't get picked on by the same person more than once if I was in the room because like I shut that down so fast. Like I'd come at them with just threats. I came at them like I don't even know. Like I put up this like alpha male energy in the room if someone tried to come at my sister. And the thing is like my sister and I we weren't the best of friends and we didn't get along well, but it was the mentality of like, I can pick on her and nobody else can. Yeah. I think that's just a natural sibling thing. Yeah. Family. So I always fought for the underdog. And even to this day, I think I do. Even to this day, if I see some kind of outsider, I especially want to make sure I get to know them and see if I can help them fit in and find a place for them. You know, that's scriptural. Is it? Yeah. What is it? How? The Old Testament very much speaks about injustice. Justice for the poor, justice for I don't know. I guess to me that's the poor, the widow, the oppressed, and that kind of fits in a person who's handicapped fits into that category, even though they may not be physically poor, like materially poor. They may not be a widow. They may not be oppressed, but they are oppressed by the person who's being mean to them. Right. That is oppression. Yeah. By the way, the widows group, they're like one of my favorite groups at church. Yeah. I got to spend the day with them yesterday, actually.
Cool.
And the person that was supposed to speak wasn't able to come because I don't know if you heard, but we got 33 inches of snow.
I heard you guys were just getting plowed. Ugh.
It was so fun, honestly. We lost power at 8 a.m. on like a Tuesday morning, and we didn't get it back for days. But we had a generator, so.
Yeah. So your fridge is fine and things?
We were fine. I still went to work like normal. I used my dad's car because it has 4-wheel drive. And anyway, with all that, like a lot of people didn't get power even till last night.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it was a little, my road is still a 1-lane road, but if I encounter someone else, I guess you have to back into someone's driveway and let the other person pass or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts. But so the person that was supposed to speak for the widows wasn't able to come because they were canceling school too, because of the mass power outages. They couldn't be expecting kids to go to school and whatever. There was no power at the school, I don't think. And so I was just like, I'll do it. I love this group. They're my favorite group. I really look forward to the one day a month that they come in and meet. And so I was like, do you have an outline? Because obviously I found out the night before. I'm not a genius. So they sent me their outline and I used that and we talked about the goodness of God.
Yeah.
And how when you display goodness, which is acting on someone else's behalf to help somebody else, like how you display the characteristic of God to them. Yeah. And so it kind of ties into that. So Mean Girls in school didn't really, I think because I fought for my sister all those years, not to mention she was held back and we're so close in age that we were in the same grade.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Which they tried their best not to have us in the same classes so that we could have separate identities and I didn't have to always be shouldering that responsibility. But sometimes it was a small school. Sometimes there was no choice and our classes would be the same. Right. But I think I got so used to fighting for her and not letting anyone push her around that I also developed it for myself. And so if, the one friend that I had, who I'm still friends with, she was mean and she admits she's like now a grandma and all that. She's like, I was honestly so horrible in high school, wasn't I? I was like, yeah, you were pretty bad. Yeah. The stuff she would say, she could cut with her words. She could find out what your Achilles heel was and she'd cut you right there. Like she could make what would appear to be the strongest person just break out in tears. She was horrible. Yeah. And really good at being horrible. She's not anymore. She eventually, I think becoming a parent changes you, right? Because if you see your kids start acting in a way that you act and it's a horrible way that they're acting, you're like, wow, it's a reflection. They're like reflecting back to you. Just like that's kind of interesting. I've never thought about that. Like just as like if we're displaying goodness, we're reflecting the love of our Father. Yeah. I'll give a perfect example. When my kids started sassing back with like a bad tone of voice, like a real sassy tone of voice, I was like, don't talk to me like that. And the minute the words came out of my mouth, I was like, she's talking exactly like me. Yeah. That tone of voice that irritates me, I use it and I use it on everybody. Oh my gosh, am I annoying? Yeah. Like I need to work on this. And her reflecting that back to me is what showed me that. So I'm going to say this caveat. If your kid's annoying, you probably are. Yeah. If your kid is sassy, you probably are. I'm talking little kids. Mm-hmm. I'm talking when they start talking and acting out when they're 2, 3.
That's totally, they learn by watching, listening. That's all they have to go on. Mm-hmm. And yet parents don't see that all the time. So what I will say is with the whole mean girl situation, a lot of mean girls, their moms are mean. Yeah. It's generational. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's someone that's jumping to my mind right now and their daughter it's so funny the way that their daughter, and she's probably around 16 or something. Whenever I run into her, the way she looks at me puts me back like I'm in high school, puts me back feeling like, why are you looking at me like that? Mm-hmm. A little bit insecure, but just for a fraction of a second, because it's just like old wounds, right? Right. A fraction of a second. And then I think, oh yeah, her mom's the same way. And I don't know where this arrogance and looking down your nose and thinking you're better than everybody else and like trying to make people feel like you're queen bee and whatever. A lot of time, what I've noticed is the meanest girls are the ones with a lot of money. Yeah. The ones that perceive to have it all. Yeah.
why are they so freaking mean? Like they have it all.
Yeah. And are they happy?
No, obviously not.
I don't think they're happy either.
Happy people don't treat people like garbage.
No, I know. Is it entitlement?
Oh yeah, I think a big part of it's entitlement. For sure.
And see, that's what scares me about the generations we're living in right now. We have it so good that there's a possibility of a lot of entitlement mentality because we don't have to fight for anything. We don't have to work for anything. We don't have to, yeah, we work, but not like our forebears did. We're not out grubbing in a potato field from daylight to dark for our food.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's always been, I don't care what you say, there's always been a class system in America.
Yes.
And it starts early. Just for example, like if you're a doctor's kid and he buys you a brand new, super nice car on your 16th birthday that you're driving to school
Mm-hmm.
and the other kids are getting off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really obvious what's going on here. And then the clothes that they have access to, all the designer clothes and the nice, cute stuff. And the other kids off the bus are shopping at, I don't know. I was going to say Walmart, but we didn't even have a Walmart growing up.
Kmart.
Oh yeah, we had Kmart.
Yeah.
Blue light special.
Yep. Pomida.
You could go to Kmart, buy your shampoo, your bras, your pants, and then go back to that cafe in the back and eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I loved Kmart.
And watch TV.
I loved Kmart. I was so sad when they shut
If
Kmart
you didn't
down.
have a TV, sometimes you went to Kmart at a certain time every week.
Oh girl,
so
we always had a TV.
I know, but some people didn't.
Yeah, I know. I remember walking by those sections and seeing some of those strictly church kids watching TV.
That's right. They were there every week at Friday night because that's when Dukes of Hazzard was on, man.
I'm guessing you might have been there a time or two.
I will not.
Good thing the statute of limitation is expired on getting grounded.
I know, right? Ugh.
Your parents aren't even with us anymore, are they?
No, my parents are both gone. Oh boy. No, I didn't actually do that so much. I did watch it some when I was there, but I didn't have a regular, but I know people who did, who had a regular appointment at
That is fun.
Kmart at a certain time. It's so funny.
I grew up so different than you.
I know.
On Saturday mornings, a lot of times, not Saturday mornings, but afternoons, matinee, my dad would take me and my sister to the movies most Saturdays.
Yeah.
And if there was nothing good playing, he'd usually take us up to the mall to go to the wooden nickel arcade.
Yeah.
We'd spend like some hours there. And I think it was partly like he worked a lot. And so Saturdays, my mom would get to stay home and just read her book and have some quiet time without us little pests. And he'd take us out to have some fun, spend some time with us as well. So it was kind of a win-win-win situation for everybody.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I have good memories of that.
That's
Although
awesome.
I wonder, I should ask him, you know, have you ever heard that if you want your kid to think that they had a really good childhood, all you have to do is the same thing? Like, let's say you want them to grow up thinking like, we went camping all the time. You only have to bring them camping 3 times.
I know.
Anything that you want them to think you did all the time, go to the ocean 3 times with them. Go to the amusement park 3 times with them. Go wherever 3 times. The 3rd time's the charm. And if you go 3 times, later in their life, they'll look back on it and say, yeah, my parents always brought us to amusement parks. They always brought us to the beach.
Yeah.
And I think that's so hilarious.
I know.
I wish I would have known it sooner, but
You would have had only a couple of things to check off.
oh, I would have life
had...
hacked that thing to death. I love life hacks. Absolutely.
We have 2 generations of kids in our family. Those who went camping as children and those who think that going to the camp out is camping. To the Memorial Day camp out. So, I'll explain. We have a Memorial Day camp out here where close to 1,000 people, maybe some years, especially get together at a campground. We reserve the whole place.
I went one time.
Yeah. And it is so much fun.
Yeah.
And so my kids, my younger kids, I mean, we always went even when the older kids were little, but they knew that wasn't, when you said we're going camping, that wasn't the camp out.
Yeah.
That was the camp out. But my younger kids didn't really go camping so much. And it was kind of a bummer, you know, just life changed. And I don't know, we just didn't go. A lot of the good places that we went were out in the, like Gifford Pinchot National Forest or whatever. And they closed down a lot of them. They were logging roads. And if they were done logging in that area and the road caved in, they didn't fix it. Like they didn't need to fix it. Right. So yeah,
we did a lot of camping too. So that means we went at least 3 times.
There you go.
So I should ask how much we actually went. Actually, my dad wouldn't even know. My dad didn't go camping with us.
Oh, funny.
He's more what I call an indoorsy dad.
Your mom took you camping?
My mom took me camping. My mom taught me how to fish. My mom taught me all of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So you came by your tomboy roots, honestly.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I never even thought about it because a lot of my aunts, all of them, I think on my mom's side, they're all like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just a UP thing, like living in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I thought it was just everyone has to do everything. I also wondered if it was just because I didn't have any brothers. So someone had to shovel and mow the lawn and whatever. And I just would choose the outside stuff over the inside stuff. But it wasn't until later, because I didn't self-identify as a tomboy necessarily. You don't realize a lot of stuff about yourself until you look back on yourself, right?
Yeah.
In the moment, you're, I don't know how we're so
just living.
You're just
living.
Just doing life. But at the campground, 1,000 people at the campground. I bet there's a couple of mean girls there. Did you ever have any problems?
I never did it as a kid, but with my children there. Yeah, there were times when one of my girls would come, you know, 'cause you have a lot of middle school age girls, and they'd come to the trailer and, you know, be moping around, looking for something to do because their friends are off, bitched them. And yeah.
One time we were living in a subdivision and the people near us had a swimming pool and the girl that lived there was having a birthday party. The subdivision wasn't that big. And she was having a birthday party and invited a bunch of people, but hadn't invited my kid who lived like you could sit on my front porch and see them playing in the pool, like up on top of the hill.
Oh my word.
Yeah. And I remember her being like, why didn't I get invited? And this is kind of what I want to go into. How do you handle it? So there's 2 problems. If you have a mean girl, how do you handle it? And the second one, if your kid is being affected by a mean girl, how do you handle it? Mm-hmm. Actually, 3rd category, how you keep your kid from like not thinking everyone's mean just because they're not doing what they think they should be doing, right? So in this situation, you know, oh, why wasn't I invited? Kind of upset about it, all of that. I wasn't like, oh, she's so mean for not inviting you. Like, no, not ever. You always put the best spin on everyone. You always assume the best about people. Unless you want to raise like a super self-centered kid. So I was like, you know, maybe I said it could be possible that her mom only let her invite a certain amount of people and that's all she was able to invite. She couldn't invite everybody. So, you know, at some point, like you can't be invited to everything.
Right.
And questioning her friendship with the person. And I said, well, you know, next time you see her or whatever, so you could just ask her if you did something, maybe. I said, maybe you did something. Maybe you upset her and you have no idea about it. Right. And I think my parents did this to me too. It was always, if I ever went to them with something, this kid was being so mean or whatever, their first thing out of their mouth, well, what did you do?
What did you do?
Right? Well, what did you do? It was always assumed that I had a part to play in it, that people weren't just doing things arbitrarily. Mm-hmm. And I think I did get a little, you know, at some point in my life, I was like, why do you always think it's my fault? I'm a pretty good person, but I also was a pretty horrible person too. So I get it. You always have to make sure your kid isn't like, see where your kid's at fault first so that you can address the situation appropriately. But
right.
I felt like they never took my side ever. And I don't know, maybe that served me well in my later years. I don't know, but how do you handle it? Like,
I think putting the best construction on it is absolutely key because you don't know. And when you don't know, I mean, the 8th commandment is that exactly. It's defend your neighbor. It's speak well of your neighbor. And it's put the best construction on everything that he does. So we don't know why they didn't invite you. I think those reasons you gave are are really valid and really, they're good possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a pool, you can't have 57 kids in it. Sorry, but we're inviting 12 and that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever, you know. To ease the hurt that's in their heart, I think is vital to a kid to a girl who is being acted on by a mean girl or a group of mean girls. I think to reassure them.
Validate their feelings.
Yes.
Like, I can understand why you feel so hurt. I would too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Because it does hurt. And if you think back to 5th grade, you can feel it right there in your soul.
But what's the one thing you can change about the whole situation?
Oh, the way I react to it, I can change.
That's it.
That's the only thing.
Yep.
But it still doesn't change how it feels to me.
Oh, no.
I can change how I react, but I can't change how I feel. Maybe my feelings will change as my mom or whoever works through it with me and explains things like, maybe they couldn't invite 50 people to their party. Maybe you did say something that offended them and you didn't realize it. When those possibilities are put into my brain instead of, because the first thing that I think, just like my parents say, what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
My first thought is, what did I do?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good starting point, though, honestly. I do think did I do something, and self-reflect. That's always really kind of smart to do.
Yes.
If you're like, I cannot think of anything that I've done, like I feel mistreated for no good reason at all.
Right.
Well, now try to put the best construct on them. Well,
Mm-hmm.
quite possibly here's some reasons why that may have happened. And a lot of times what I assume of people is, even when someone is mean, unless it's chronic, if someone is mean, I assume they honestly don't know that affected you that way.
Or they're just having a terrible day.
Yeah, we gotta have grace for that, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then also, if someone's chronically mean, if there's someone that's dealing with someone that's mean and they're a chronically mean person, I do recommend that if they have talked to the person about it, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why have you been so mean to me lately? And they just are deniers. I haven't been mean to you, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not repentant. They are just, this is who I am, like it or leave it. I say leave it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's plenty more people out there that are looking for friends as well.
Yeah.
And this is a common misconception. Everyone's sitting out there thinking, how come I'm the only one without friends?
Right.
What a lie.
Right.
What a lie. The fact of the matter is there's most people listening right now do not feel like they have very many friends.
Yeah.
But the only way to get a friend is to be a friend.
Yeah. And to seek that out.
And that's hard because you put yourself out there. And I've put myself out there multiple times when I've moved and thought, these people seem nice. Maybe I'll invite them over. Maybe they'll be my friends. And then I have them over a couple times and there's nothing reciprocal.
Yeah.
So I just have to kind of let it go and say, oh, okay. Maybe I'm not their cup of tea. Maybe they have enough friends. Maybe whatever.
Yeah.
And I have to just move on and I have to try to make friends with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really difficult. And the older you get, it doesn't get easier. Cause like, where do you meet people?
Yeah.
Where do you meet other middle-aged moms with
bingo?
Where's my local bingo hall?
That's why bingo is a thing for older people.
I'm not playing bingo.
Yeah. But those kinds of clubs.
I suppose, cause even people are like, where's my people? Maybe they're.
Yeah.
Cause, you know, a lot of people meet people at bars. That's not a good idea.
Yeah. Right. You find your kind of people wherever you.
Church is the best place to meet people. You find a really good church and you get yourself plugged in there and involved in you.
Yep.
But even with that, you really have to try. You have to be that friend first. You have to join some small groups or introduce yourself or invite someone out for lunch or over for dinner or something like that. Like you still have to make that effort.
Yep. Stay for lunch. Join the Bible study. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to do all the things. And understand that even as you're trying to make friends, you don't know if you're going to be really compatible with them until you spend some time. And then you might say, and not that they're bad people or anything, but you're just not as compatible with everybody.
Right.
And it gets doubly hard when you're married. And then your husband has to also like the couple and you have to like you have to like both and he has to like both. It's just like up to your odds of disaster exponentially. Yeah. So when you do find married couple, and this is why we became friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because our husbands get along so well, friends, and they were friends first. And I think they were just, I don't know, they were just like, you guys should be friends. We're like, okay.
Well, you just came over.
Yeah. He was like,
because your husband came over.
Yeah.
You know, you guys weren't even married yet, just friends. I mean, you were dating.
Yeah. Yeah, I was coming up there when we were dating. That's crazy.
And he showed up with a girl.
And you were all like, whoa. What?
Yeah. Well, then it was so cool because you were from the UP, you know.
Yeah.
And you were cool.
Connections.
Yeah. And you were related to, or not related to, you were friends with some of my relatives. And,
yeah. Such a small world.
Yeah. It was very cool.
Yeah. So then, I think this can be even more difficult is, so you want to find a couple that you both like hanging out with. Mm-hmm. Well, then they have kids and then you have kids. Now are your kids going to get along?
Oh, you can get into some mean girl stuff there. Because
like if the parents both like each other and they're like, too bad, we're doing stuff together, and then the kids are off playing and being mean to each other because someone doesn't like someone and one of them's nasty, and that's a whole nother thing too. And then what do you do with that?
I know.
But you know, what do you do with that? Do you go to the other parent and say your kid's being mean to my kid, or like when they're smaller, what do you do? I don't remember.
I did.
You did.
Yeah. I think you go to the parents.
I do too, because they probably aren't even aware that it's happening, to be honest.
Right. And when you're the parent your friend comes up and says your kid is mean, take it seriously.
Yeah.
Believe it, acknowledge it, watch for it, and start teaching your child to not respond in that way, to not react, to not act. Forget react, act in that way.
Yeah, and a lot of it is with words, and so it makes me wonder, when people are really cutting with their words, how are the parents talking at home around the kids?
I know.
You know, are they at home talking, just smack talking people left and right in front of the kids and teaching them this is how you talk about people?
Yeah.
Because, yikes.
I know.
You really want to raise kids who are walking around just talking bad about people? Do you want people talking bad about you?
Right.
It's not a good example.
Right.
So, I don't know. It makes me sad, and it's not doing a service to those kids.
No, exactly.
Right. The best chance you're going to give your kids in life is to make them likable people. Likable people get more chances in life, get more opportunities in life.
Yeah. In all the ways.
All the ways. Yep.
Yeah.
Because people want to help people that are nice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sanctified, right? Mm-hmm. And still, if there's one person that's been mean to me and one person that's been nice to me, and they're both standing there asking for a favor at the same time, who do you think I'm going to want to help?
Yeah. The one who's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we covered your kid is acted on by a mean girl. We covered your kid is a mean girl. What was the third one? Weren't there 3?
Yes, I don't remember.
Hopefully we covered it, because we can't remember.
No, we can't remember.
And I think mean girls, we need to acknowledge that it hurts. And we need to love those who are mean, because they don't necessarily, they're most of the time doing it out of ignorance, out of hurt.
Right. So just stop.
Their own pain. Yeah.
Stop and look at them and say, are you okay?
Exactly. We need to start wrapping this up.
Well, today was a bunch of rabbit trails about, I don't even know anymore. We just kind of went round and round. My brain's a little scattered because it doesn't even feel like it should be Friday. Mm-hmm. But once again, it was nice talking to you, kind of covering mean girls.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Been great chatting.
Yeah, as always. All right, till next week.
Okay. Yep, bye.